Καλησπέρα σας, καλοί φίλοι τηλεθεατές. Καλώς ορίσατε στην εκπομπή μας Faces, πρόσωπα. Ακόμα μια φορά λοιπόν εδώ και να ευχαριστήσουμε και τον χορηγό μας πριν προχωρήσουμε, τον Δόκτωρα Βασίλη Μαύρου και τον Άρρωση Lettings. Ευχαριστούμε για την στήριξη, να είστε καλά. Και I have to turn to English and then might be in Greek, it depends. Because I have to talk to Nadia Marks, a BBC girl. You born in London, didn't you?
No, I was actually born in Cyprus.
Cyprus?
Γεννήθηκα στη Λευκοσία, αλλά ήρθα στην Κύπρο μικρή.
Στην Αγγλία.
Συγγνώμη, στην Αγγλία, στο Λονδίνο.
Ναι, επομένως, your language is English actually.
Yes.
And, but
yes.
you are able to speak Greek as well.
I am.
Yes, because your father was a teacher.
Yeah. Yes.
And, Mr. Kitromilidis.
He was a wonderful teacher, and he did continue to teach me Greek and also my children, his grandsons. So, I can speak Greek if you like me to.
Okay. So Marx is your
Married name.
Married name, yes. And you kept it, yes?
I kept it because it was my professional name. I got married very young. I was 20 and I started working and I used that name and everybody knew me as Nadia Marks, and it just seemed strange to suddenly change it once I started writing books. I was a journalist and people knew my name as a writer, so once I started writing novels I just felt might as well keep my name. So
okay.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling me again, I asked you a couple of times before, but to remind our audience as well about your family. Your father and mother are both Cypriots,
yeah?
They came from Nicosia?
They're both from Nicosia, both of them. My father had been a teacher and then he was a social worker, and he was sent to work at the High Commission in London in the 60s, and we came to work. He came to work here and the whole family arrived. I was young and I went to school here, I had my education here, my brother was here, went to university, and I got married and ended up staying. So that's basically...
Yeah, but your profession, you studied as a journalist, you worked for a long time.
Yeah, I started art. I started as a designer, and I worked in women's magazines. I started my career in Cosmopolitan magazine, and then worked on several other women's magazines, very successful women's magazines. And I was a designer, I was an artist. I worked with photographers and models, and I did a lot of the visual side of the magazine. But then I started writing articles. So I moved from being an artist to being a writer. And then I started writing books.
Okay, so how you managed to get a publisher and you sign a contract for 4 books, I suppose?
Yes.
As you told me. How you managed to get the contract?
Well, I wrote a book. I wrote a novel without a contract. I had an agent, and an agent is often as difficult to get as a publisher. And I had a very good agent who sent the books out to publishers, and Macmillan, who are one of the top publishers in the world.
It is, yes.
Apparently, they liked the first book I wrote, and they bought it. And with that, they wanted another one, and then they wanted another one and another one. So I was signed up for 4 books. Okay,
tell me about the 3 previous ones. The themes and the stories about the previous books.
I'm sort of considered a summer reads author, which means my books have a Mediterranean theme. They're very much about... The first book was about Greece and Italy, and the book... all my books have a historic element to them.
It was during the war.
During the war, in the Second World War. The book starts in Greece, in the present, and then always the themes of all my books are, it starts in the present and then it goes to the past, because a family secret is discovered through a relative, through finding some letters, through talking to an old aunt, an old grandfather, and we go back in time and we enter a different world. We enter Greece in the 1940s, or in my previous book, it goes even as far back. My previous book was set in Larnaca during the turn of the century, just after Cyprus became British.
And it was about a letter again, found
that one
somewhere.
was about, the first one was about letters. The second one was, it starts off with the funeral of an old lady who then we discover who this old lady is. There is a group, 3 friends come from all over the world to pay their respects to the old lady who had a pivotal role in their life. And we discovered through the book who she was, and it goes back again into
her life and all
yeah,
this
and not only her life, but other people's lives.
It's around her.
Yeah, and it's about 4 very, very strong women of 4 generations, all set in Larnaca during the beginning of the 20th century, right up to the middle and the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any indications about a biography in your books? Or?
You mean if there are any biographical elements?
Elements,
I
yes.
I think every author draws from their own experiences. They have to. I mean, you
Definitely,
can't write
yes.
about things you don't. I certainly.
And if you don't have experience, you can't write a book.
Probably not.
Yes.
I think you do need to live a life.
Maybe not, because I know quite a few young people. They can write stories, but not a historical.
Fantasy,
fantasy.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, of course. I mean, imagination is part of the process of writing, of course. I think, for me personally, I draw from from imagination and my experiences. Someone recently told me that I put my nostalgia of Cyprus into my
the books,
because
yes.
Cyprus is very pivotal for me, and Greece.
Yes.
But my very first years of living as a child in Cyprus have really informed me and have given me a love of the island. And I go back very, very regularly. And I love the people, I love the land, I love the history, and I do pour a lot of that into my books.
Yeah. How old were you when you left Cyprus?
Oh, I was just in primary school. Yeah.
And I think the reason that you say that you love and you
Yes.
write about Cyprus is that because your parents, especially your father,
Yes.
was so dedicated
Yes.
to his country, and he was always talking about his country, and he was,
Yes.
I think, an inspiration.
He was definitely an inspiration. And in fact, this book is dedicated to him and is highly inspired by him. He was, the inspiration of the book is this Between the Orange Groves came from conversations I had with my father over the years, all through my life actually, about his friendships with Turkish Cypriots, because the book deals with the 2 communities at a time when there was innocence, when there was friendship, when there was peace, before things broke.
I was going to ask you, but you already told me a few things about
Yeah.
it. So give me more information about the book. I mean, the idea came about because of you wanted to give some, information about the readers, about your country, and about the relationship between the 2, communities, Cypriot, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, and their relations,
and the relationships,
as well as their beliefs, and all
their
this.
faith,
Their faith,
which
yes.
is the one thing that divides them more than anything, really. I mean, it's a very topical theme in the world right now, the 2 faiths, 2 different...
especially now, yes.
Especially now, everywhere. Basically, the book deals with friendship and it deals with personal relationships. I remembered my father, whenever I asked my father when he was alive, over the years he had many friends, very dear friends, in Greek
Turkish.
friends. No,
And Greeks,
just
yes.
many friends
Okay.
or in the community here in
Yeah.
London and in Cyprus. But whenever I asked him, who was your best friend of all time, he always mentioned this one man, and he said it was Orhan. And I never met
Yes.
Orhan, but I was fascinated by the concept of this obviously Turkish Cypriot man who they were students together, they were in teachers training together. So I have a character called Orhan. It's not that man because
But
I never met him.
You
I
name
just used the name.
the character, yes.
Yeah.
Use the
I mean,
name, yes.
also I like the name Orhan because I'm a great fan of Orhan Pamuk, the Turkish writer. So I used the name, and it's about a friendship of two families. It's about two women. It's Hatice, Marula, who grew up together in a village up in the mountains in Cyprus. They both have a son each, and the children grow up together, and the story develops between the two families and the friendships, but also the tensions and also the problems that they encounter because of their faith, because of political things, but not so much. I really don't touch politics. I touch the human condition, the friendship, the relationships between the people, and as I said, it's dedicated to him, but it is quite a
Sometimes because of the history, you might have to mention, something which is related to politics.
Of course.
Yes,
of course.
obviously,
Of
to
course.
be able to write about history.
Yeah.
And because Cyprus
it's
been always
been politically
involved,
and I do touch some of the thing I don't touch is 74 onwards.
After 74,
I stopped up to 74 because I think that's when things started changing drastically. I mean, even as a child, I remember Turkish neighbors that my mother liked spending time with. And even now, as you say, in London, it is the Turkish Cypriots and the Greek Cypriots are living together as they used to live in 50, 60 years ago.
Yes, yes.
Also, what I've done with this book, although it's a summer book, and as my publishers like to say, I think it's a book that can be read at any time, any season. I set it in the mountains of Cyprus, in Rhodos. It's not by the sea. It's not, a beach set, unlike the previous one, which was set in Larnaca. And I think really Rhodos Mountains it's the real Cyprus. It's the real. You need to go there to actually see the real island, because by the coast, it's international.
It's not much changes up there. In Rhodos and the villages, the mountains.
Yeah.
It's not much change, but in obviously in seaside.
Yes.
It's European. It's more
European.
modern and all this kind of thing, and you can see so many people from other nationalities and all this kind of thing. But up there in the mountains, it's pure Cypriots. Yes.
Yeah, and you see the history. You see more of the history and so on. So, so I wanted to show something because my readers are British. They are mainly British. It's for the British public. My first book was a bestseller, and they're all the books that they do very well. And I wanted people to know something about this island and to learn something. So you read the story. It's an interesting, intriguing story where you learn about family secrets and things that have happened. But also along the way, you're picking up something useful as well. You're learning something about a part of the world that perhaps.
Yeah, I want my daughter to learn about this, so you're gonna dedicate it to her in a minute.
Okay. Yes.
Because she's gonna read it, and instead of me reading it, I read a few
You
pages.
good.
But she's gonna read it, and she's gonna give me more information, feedback.
Good.
Yes. Anyway, now it's been published for how long now?
Oh, since the summer.
Summer.
Just the summer.
Okay.
It's new. It's new.
Yeah, and you managed to, do a few presentations. You already.
Yes. He was launched in,
Yeah, launched
the end
in,
of May.
London,
Yeah,
yes.
in London. I've had, I've been interviewed in several places and BBC and so on. Yeah.
Cyprus as well. You went to Cyprus as well, yes?
Yeah. This one hasn't yet been translated, but my previous books have all been translated into 5 languages.
In Greek as well, yes.
Yeah, and Italian. The Italians seem to be very keen
Italian.
on my books,
Yeah.
yes. Portuguese and even Bulgarian, actually, which I was rather pleased. So, yeah, this one's new. This is quite new.
And you are planning for the 4th one now?
Yeah, I've just completed. I've just finished my
you finished it.
My 4th book. That one is called One Summer in Crete. It's set on the island of Ikaria and Crete, and that again has the same format of it goes back in time. It goes back to the 50s. It doesn't go.
You can't avoid the historical moments.
No.
Yes, but around the historical moments, you just expand your story.
Yeah.
The people around it, the people involved in it, and all this.
Yeah.
And you create your own.
That's right. That's right.
Situations.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, lovely. So, would you mind if I ask you to read just a
Okay.
page or whatever? I mean. Do you have anything in mind you can?
No, I should have done that
I just
before.
want to see your expressions and the feelings are coming from you because you wrote the book.
Okay.
And,
let me see what I find something.
Yes. Just for our audience to get an idea what it's all about, before we go.
Sure. I'll just find something.
Yes, and Nadia Marks is a very good author. You go and buy the book. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. And Yorgos is, agree with me. So I'm sure he's going to buy the book and read it. Yes.
Okay. Well, this is chapter 1.
Okay.
Might as well. It starts off with says Cyprus, 1920s. So it's very early on in the history of Cyprus, the recent history of Cyprus. Kyria Marula and Hatice Hanum, as the children politely addressed each other's mothers, were as generous in spirit as they were in spreading their love and laughter to their children and their families. The Constantinou and the Terzi houses were separated only by a row of orange, lemon and mandarin trees, so close that often when Marula threw open her kitchen window looking out onto the trees, she had to battle with their foliage. When the blossom was in full bloom, the heady aroma that flooded the room was almost overwhelming. Most mornings, after the 2 women finished their household chores, they were paused and take in turns to take coffee with each other. Whenever the weather was fine in spring and autumn, they would sit in each other's backyard enjoying the warm sunshine. While in winter, they would sit inside by a log fire as the rain or sometimes snow fell outside. Winters in the mountains were cold, often bitterly so, but they didn't last long, and when summer arrived, it was welcome with jubilation. A mountain breeze kept the climate temperate, and there was no shortage of trees on Marula's and Hatice's backyard to take refuge under if the temperature rose too high. No fences or borders separated the 2 houses, and the hens roaming the yard as the 2 women drinking their coffee belonged to both households. When the children were small, they would sit on the rug by their mother's feet and then toddle about chasing the chickens when they were a little older. First came the boys, Orhan and Lambros. Then, barely a year later, came Leila. Oh, how I longed for a daughter, Marula said with a yearning as she cradled her friend's newborn baby girl. You'll have one soon, I know, Hatice replied. I saw it in the cup. The coffee grounds never lie. Believe me, it's your turn next. Inshallah, God willing, Marula answered, using the customary Turkish expression, which Greeks often used as well. Glad to hear you speak some Turkish, my friend, Hatice exclaimed in Greek. I've been thinking that it's about time to teach you some more. How many years now have I been speaking to you in Greek, and all you say to me is inshallah and mashallah. As the majority of the Greek population, the Cypriot population, was made up of Greeks, most Turks were obliged to have some knowledge of Greek, and more often than not, they were fluent. Hatice was one of them, as were her parents and grandparents before her. Apart from the unavoidable mistakes many Turks made in not being able to distinguish gender, their vocabulary and her pronunciation was excellent. Yeah?
Beautiful. Ναι, αυτές οι λέξεις, obviously, you know, the mashallah and inshallah, you know, I mean, everybody knows them, every Greek, Cypriot, and, you know, and the Turkish people, they know a few Greek words. You know what I mean?
Yes,
they
do. In fact, I was, the other day, I was with some relatives in Brent Cross, and we sat just to take a breath, and we were talking in Greek, and a lady turned around and she said, oh, you're Cypriot, you're Greek, but you're Cypriot. And it turned out that she was Turkish Cypriot, and she said, I knew you were Greek, but I knew you were Cypriot because I recognized the way you spoke. And she knew, and she said, my father my mother and father spoke fluent Greek, and so it was very nice.
You know, reading this piece now remind me of the true original life of Cyprus between those years before the invasion, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And now, in a few places in Cyprus, they carry on, you know, living this kind of life and situations with the mission of their friends, the Turkish friends.
Yes.
You know what I mean, the Greeks.
Yes, yes.
And it's a shame.
It is a shame. It's a terrible shame. I mean, my parents had these friends, and when I was, after my father died, I went through his things and I found letters from their Turkish friends that were written to them in fluent, beautifully written Greek, because they were educated people and they could tell. And I found a poem written by his friend Orhan that was sent to him by the man's son, and I actually used this little poem at the beginning of the book because I thought
it was in Turkish?
Well, his son had translated it into
Greek.
Into English,
to
actually.
English, yes.
And I used it in my book, and because I think the friend of my father's, he became an imam. He was very religious, and he used to say to my father, the only thing that separates us is our religion.
It's a religion,
you know. And
obviously the only places Turkish they won't go in a Greek side or Greek homes and villages is the church, and the same with the Turkish and the Greeks, you know.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, now what's happening? I mean, any other future plans? I mean, you have your book ready. Is it going to be published soon? The fourth
one? It will be published next year. Okay. It's always the following year, and then I'm going to take a little break and
What else do you have in mind? I mean, you going to carry on writing?
I have many things in mind, and writing, of course, would always be. I will always carry on writing. It's in my blood. But it was quite an extensive time of writing 4 books, one after the other. So sometimes, it's nice to take a little time to think.
In how many years?
In 4.
4 years.
Yeah.
1 a year, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say you have other things in mind, what do you mean? Do you have any plans which you're gonna, or dreams you want to fulfill, or what?
I like to do more traveling.
Traveling.
Yeah,
yes.
because traveling gives you inspiration anyway.
Definitely.
So
yes.
the more you travel, the more you see the world, the more
you know, the more you're able to
I think so. I think
express yourself. Yes.
Like I said before, I think experiences are important in order to, So,
good.
I could have carried on reading more if you wanted, but I wasn't sure. So,
it's okay.
It's okay.
Let the audience, buy the book. Where can they buy it?
They're in bookshops.
Tell them.
Amazon.
Yes.
You can order it on Amazon. It's available, and it's. Or you can go to bookshops, Waterstones and Daunt Books, and you can order and. W.H. Smith's. If they don't have it because it's sold out, because it came out in the summer, you can order it. Books always order the books. Bookshops always order.
And now we tell the audience where they can buy it and all this kind of thing. So what you want to say to someone who wanted to just dare to write a book? What is your advice?
Somebody who, like yourself, like
yes,
your daughter,
yes.
I would say write. If you want to write, you must pick up your pen or sit in front of your laptop and write. And if you have an idea, do it. You must always follow your dream and write. My first book, I wrote it without a publisher, without any contract, and
they bought
that
it.
was
yes.
the outcome of it. So if I hadn't done that, then probably
you
wouldn't be here now.
Yes,
so yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any specific time you sit down and write, or
I write all day and every day. It's a job. It's it's a full-time job basically, because you have deadlines. You have a period of time where you have to deliver the book. And because I come from a journalistic background, I know about deadlines. So
yes.
it's sometimes difficult for writers because they have to have inspiration, and sometimes you can't just sit down. And there are days when you only write a little bit, and there are other days when you can, it flows, the muse is with you, and other days.
Good. Okay, Nadia, thank you very much for coming here today to talk about your books and yourself and all this. And I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to the 4th book, which is going to come out next year. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. For having me.
Αυτά, καλοί φίλοι τηλεθεατές. Επομένως, εγώ και εσείς θα τα ξαναπούμε την ερχόμενη εβδομάδα, την ερχόμενη Κυριακή, λίγο μετά τις 8 ή ίσως και λίγο πριν τις 8, γιατί καμιά φορά ξεκινάμε λίγο πιο νωρίς, Γιώργο. Λοιπόν, γιατί παρακολουθώ το πρόγραμμά μου. Λοιπόν, και ή με ένα καινούργιο πρόσωπο ή πρόσωπα, να δούμε. Μέχρι τότε να είστε καλά, να αγαπάτε τους εαυτούς σας, να προσέχετε τους εαυτούς σας, να διαβάζετε και βιβλία και θα τα πούμε και πάλι. Να ευχαριστήσουμε τον χορηγό μας, τον Dr. Βασίλη Μαύρου και το Vasilis Panagis που μας στηρίζουν. Ευχαριστούμε. Καλή νύχτα σας.